Hey guys, Wes here. So, sorry it's been a little while since I posted a YouTube video. I've been working on a rather large project this month, which I'm really excited to announce in a follow-up video this week. But I got a comment on my blog recently. It was asking a little bit about how I became a software developer. So I thought I would make a quick video just kind of sharing how I switched careers and really how learning software development has definitely changed my life for the better. My wife and I were living together, and she had decided that she'd like to go to graduate school for a pretty specific type of program. We just kind of talked about it, and I said, you know, wherever you get into school, somewhere in the United States, we would move and just make it work. So at the time I was working as a mechanical engineer, and that's really my formal background. So I studied mechanical engineering in school, and then for about 7 years was a mechanical engineer in industry, mostly doing new product design and things like 3D modeling. So I had a technical background, but it wasn't strictly in software. I had taught myself a little bit of Rails and made a few little websites. I'd also done some embedded systems, so building things like mechanical test fixtures and other types of mechanical automation. But strictly speaking, I had never actually done any type of software development. So when my wife got into school, we decided we were moving to a place that didn't actually have any nearby mechanical engineering positions to apply for. What they did have were a few places to work as a software developer. It was maybe 3 or 4 months out, and so I decided to join a meetup group in the city that we were going to be moving to for software development, just to kind of see if I could meet some people, some interesting people in the area. And so I did that. One day in my inbox I see a posting for a software development job in the area that we were moving. As soon as I saw it, I applied for it, and then I really put my study mode into high gear and really spent a lot of time during that period learning as much as I could. And it was for a company that was doing web development. It was a startup, and so luckily I had spent a few years building some websites and learning a little bit of Rails, learning a minimal amount and just a tiny bit of Java for some Android development that I had played around with. But in any case, I got the interview, I flew over there for it, and essentially got the position. Definitely my background, I think, in engineering helped, and just having spent several years, you know, working on fast-paced teams and things like that certainly helped. And so that said, I got kind of an entry-level position supporting our team at this company internally, doing things like building dashboards and, you know, running a lot of raw SQL and really just building some simple tools that could give some visibility into our internal processes. And so from day one, I kind of hit the ground running. Things were definitely far from easy at first. We were moving at just an extremely fast pace in sort of a growth phase, and there were fires to put out, you know, almost on a daily basis. I kind of got the job of putting out a lot of those fires, and so yeah, I had to learn a lot really quickly. And so I would come home every night already a little bit exhausted just from you know, the entire change that was happening, and just spend about 3 hours every night after work with our source code and with other learning resources, watching a lot of videos, reading a lot of books, until over time, over months and years, I became more comfortable as a developer. And so I grew, you know, within that position a little bit at that company, eventually developing more interesting things. And yeah, really just kind of took it one day at a time. Now I have such a passion for it, and I really enjoy it. And part of my goal with this channel is to, of course, spread that joy of learning to build things in software with other people. And not only that, but try to make the learning process itself a lot more enjoyable. The commenter on my blog was also interested more in the specifics about how to prepare for pivoting into a career of software development, or starting a career in software development. After giving that question a little bit of thought over the last several weeks, these are kind of my thoughts, so take them with a grain of salt. I think everyone's opinion on this matter is probably different, but this is mine anyway. The first thing that I would do is to just simply ask yourself the question, what particular discipline of software development do you want to get into? Are you interested in web development, or embedded systems, or mobile development, data science and machine learning? There are just countless areas where software development skills are an asset. So the next thing that I would do is to start building something in a popular object-oriented programming language. Just get started building something that you can show a prospective employer, so that you have some evidence of being able to use a particular language or work within a particular framework. I realize that's a bit of a vague statement, just building something, but definitely I don't think there's much of a replacement for it, really. You can read and do sort of coding exercises and understand algorithms and be able to pass a whiteboard interview, all of which I think are actually at some point very valuable and very important things to be able to do. But just starting out, I think you need some experience essentially getting your hands dirty, building a project. Pick an object-oriented programming language that perhaps you've explored in the past, or if you haven't even started to code, pick something popular that you've heard of. For my example, let's just take web development. Pick a language like .NET or Ruby or Python, and find a popular web framework for that language, and then just start trying to build something with it. So the first time or the second time or the third time that you build something in the first language that you're learning, you're not going to build it properly. You're going to make a lot of mistakes, but as far as I'm concerned, I think the only way to learn those things is to start actually building something. Actually, sitting down and starting a new project introduces you to a lot of really important concepts. So first of all, you're going to start understanding the syntax of the language and kind of how it works. And like I said, you're going to have a lot of trouble at first, I think, at least if your learning process is anything like mine. You're going to try to build something, you're going to get it working, it's going to feel good, and then weeks go by and months go by and you start to realize, better ways to do things. And that's a sign that you are actually learning how to code, so that's a good thing. Next thing that I'll say is that as you work on this new project, use Git for source control. Learning how to use Git for 75% of the things that you'll use it for in your career will only take you 2 or 3 days, at least, to sort of get in the flow of things if you're spending 5 or 6 hours a day working on a new project. It's also going to start to prepare you for working on a team of other web developers, and so I would learn the very basics of Git, learn how to track a directory, add files, commit them, push them to a remote repository like GitHub, and create and move between branches, and then merge branches. I think that if you just get the hang of those handful of commands, you'll already be well on your way for how you're going to be using Git when you get to an actual software development team. The next thing that I would spend some time learning how to do is testing your code. So many experienced developers actually write tests before they write any of their code. Now, in my opinion, that's probably sort of an ideal way perhaps to learn how to code, but it's not really, I think, the way that anyone learns how to code, much less the way that many professional developers actually write production code. If you know how to write tests, if you understand the concept of a unit test, then I think that's actually going to propel your understanding of object-oriented programming and the way that good software can be written. So you'll see your code fail if you don't write tests first. You'll see your code fail in ways that you don't necessarily expect it to fail. And so writing tests around code that doesn't have tests in it is a really good way to kind of explore explicitly how that code works. So get familiar with the concept of a unit test, play around with a particular unit testing framework for the language that you're working with, commit those tests into your Git repository. That's also going to look good if you'd like to present your project at some point to a potential employer. The next thing that I'll mention just very quickly is once you start to get comfortable working in a particular language, or at least you feel like you can begin understanding code written in that language, then start looking for open source projects to contribute to. I'll post a link in the description to a place where you can go to check out projects which have open issues to solve that would be great for beginning programmers. Okay, the next thing that I'll mention is something that people have strong opinions about, but it's definitely something that you're going to want to think about, and that is algorithms, or algorithms and data structures. So basically whiteboard interviews. So when I got my first software development job, I didn't have to do a whiteboard interview. I think we had kind of simple questions on it, like describe what an interface is in the context of object-oriented programming, and write an implementation of FizzBuzz in C# on the page, and maybe a few other things. Some fairly straightforward questions. Definitely not anything as intense as what you might picture when you think of a whiteboard interview. And so my kind of cop-out answer to this is, if you're applying for a job where you know that you're going to have whiteboard interviews, then it's probably going to be important to you to kind of study for that. On the other hand, I happen to be of the relatively controversial opinion that learning algorithms and actually understanding how to solve problems with a computer is actually a valuable skill to you as a developer, even if you're just a front-end developer or a web developer. Are you going to be implementing a sort algorithm from scratch in a service layer for a web application that you're building for this company? Definitely not. I mean, almost certainly not. Will you ever need to calculate the big O of probably not? But nonetheless, I think that there's definitely merit to understanding data structures and algorithms. Should it be the most important part of your study regimen when you're just thinking about switching careers or starting software development for the first time? I don't think so. But it should be something that you are aware of and perhaps are working towards. Okay, so that's my long-winded answer for how I got into software development and how I might prepare for it if I were doing it all over again, which I definitely would do all over again. So yeah, just get into a language and take time each day to write a little bit of code, to read some code in that language, and to start building something that you want to build. And then just practice and keep it up every day. I happen to believe that the joy in all of this, and pretty much the joy in any activity, for me, is the learning process. There's always more to learn. It's a lifelong journey. It's not anything that you're gonna pick up in a weekend or a month or a year. It's a long process. But like they say, every journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step. So yeah, just put one foot in front of the other and take time each day to make a little bit more progress, and before you know it, you'll be there. So yeah, that's about it. Like I said, in the next video I'll have a big announcement to make, as well as a new project to start here on YouTube. So I'm going to have a lot more videos this month, so I hope you stay tuned, and I'll see you around.